So today I'm going to show you how to make this really cute and realistic cake roll, or roll cake, or Swiss roll, or whatever you want to call it. So you're going to need tan clay, or you can use chocolate or any other colour you want, and white clay for the cream. Again, you can use any colour you want. I'm using some red clay for a strawberry that will go on top. You'll also need a blade, and you'll need a needle tool as well to texture the cake. You'll also need a rolling pin, but I forgot to show that. You also need a brush and some chalk pastels. And you'll need a blade. Well, I use this long blade, but you don't exactly need it. I just find it easier, that's all. So then you're just going to take your clay, make sure it's all conditioned, and you're going to use the rolling pin and roll it out in a sort of long shape. You don't want it to be too thin, but you don't want it to be too thick either. Just guess how thick you want it. It really depends on how thick you want your cake to be. Then trim off the edges and make it into a long rectangle shape. The wider you make your rectangle, the longer your cake roll will be. So if you make it into a square shape, you'll have a longer cake roll. And then you're going to take the white clay and you're going to roll that out as well. You're going to roll it a bit thinner than the tan clay because we don't want that to be thicker than the tan clay, of course. Just a little bit thinner. My clay gets stuck to the rolling pin quite easily for some reason. Okay, so now you're going to take the rectangle of tan clay and place it on top just to gauge the size you want it. And then you're going to cut excess around 3 of the sides, leaving the very top side, because we're going to be cutting it a little bit shorter than the tan clay, and you'll see that in just a moment. So here I'm just taking off the pieces just so I can cut the white clay a bit shorter. And my hand, it just gets in the way here, so I'm sorry you can't see anything, but I do show it afterwards. So there you can see I've cut it a bit shorter than the tan clay, and that's just because when I roll it up it'll make the edge a lot neater and it'll be easier to smooth it down, and it'll look nicer as well. So here you just have to put the 2 pieces together as neatly as you can. I had a little trouble aligning them, but just try your best. Flatten them down a bit, make sure they're all stuck together with no air bubbles or anything, and then start rolling. Just roll very gently at first. The first roll is the hardest to do, and then after that it gets easier. Don't worry if the edges go a bit wonky or anything, because you can trim those off. And it'll be very neat afterwards. So just roll it up. You can see there's bits sticking out from the middle. That's fine, that's no problem. I'm just going to take my blade and chop those bits off. Again, my hand is in the way, so I'm sorry. If you have trouble with the clay, if it's a bit warm, put it in the fridge for a bit, and then the colours won't merge together when you cut through the clay. And then once it's cut through like that, it should be very neat. And then you can use a smoothing tool or your finger just to blend in the bottom edge. You can do this before you cut the edges off as well if it's easier. And then just reshape and just make sure it's all looking good. Roll it a bit if you have to, anything like that, just to make it into a good shape. And now we're going to texture it. So take your needle tool and very gently go around in a circular motion just on the tan part of the clay, which is the cake part. You don't need to texture the icing because icing doesn't really have a texture. So just go around the cake, and you're going to do this for both sides as well, and you'll see what this looks like once I'm done as well. If you need a good cake texturing tutorial, My Petite Cakes has one, I believe, and I might put that link in the description. Remind me on if I don't put it in the description below, but I'll try and remember. It's a very short video she does, but it's very useful for texturing cakes, and she does a very close-up view on it. So now I'm just going to take some white clay, and I'm going to use a mould I made from a whipped cream dollop. If you don't have one of these, you can either push the clay through an icing tip, or you can twist the clay into a sort of icing dollop shape. Or you can shape the clay using a texturing tool, like a ball tool or something similar. But before I add this on, I'm going to shade the top of the cake roll with some chalk pastels. Didn't show you the colours I used, but I used a mixture of orange and brown. I'm not really happy with the way it's shaded. I don't know, I'm not very good at shading, so you don't have to do that if you don't want to. And I'm just adding the whipped cream on top. And you can decorate this however you want. You don't have to add the whipped cream or anything. You can just leave it plain if you want to. Or add, I don't know, chocolate sauce. Scribbles will be good for that once the charm's baked. Anything like that would be good. So I'm just pressing it down and reshaping the cream with the smoothing tool. And I'm going to take some red clay now and make a tiny strawberry. So you're basically going to make a kind of cone shape with the red clay. And then I'm going to use the needle tool to put tiny little dots on it for the strawberry. Making a strawberry is very simple, and many people use this technique. And then you're going to put that on top next to the whipped cream, and you can leave it like that if you want, but I'm actually going to add some chocolate powder on top. And to do that, all I'm going to do is take some brown chalk pastels and shave it on top of the cake. Kind of looks like chocolate dust or chocolate powder or something. Cocoa powder, that's the word. And there we have it. We are done, and thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.